Hello and welcome back to Jimbo's PC Builds. Today I'm going to do part 2 of the beginner's build. Now in the first part we put the CPU in the motherboard, added the cooler and put the memory into the motherboard as well. So the motherboard is now ready to go into the case. I've done a separate review on this case and I will leave a link in the description box below. So the first thing we need to do is we need to get our case open to put the motherboard in. You need to get the thumb screw at the back because this case has nice and convenient thumb screws, and you just turn lefty loosey. Voila, take the thumb screws off. Once you have all thumb screws off, you can take the side panels off by sliding them backwards. You slide them backwards like so, take one panel off. Turn the case towards you slightly and voila, panel number 2 is off. Okay, now you need to put the back of the case away from you. Now you can see at this stage that you've got the big hole here, which is where the back of the CPU in terms of the motherboard will go. So the motherboard will sit in the tray inside. So once you have that orientation, put the case flat. Now the next thing we need is, which will be in the box of your motherboard, which is called the I/O shield. Now we'll take this out of the bag like so. Okay, now some motherboards come with an I/O shield included, this one doesn't. What you have to do is you have to look at your motherboard and go, okay, it's going to sit in front of all your I/O like so. So the I/O shield's cut out on your cases right here. So you need to put it with the back that will go out to the outside of the case facing towards the back of the case, and you need to clip it in. You'll be able to tell when it's fully lined up and in, because you'll hear a click like so. And all of the little, you can see like little dimples on the top and the bottom, and once they are all in like so, the I/O shield is now in. So now that should be nice and snug. If you push it from this side, it shouldn't move. Okay, so that is now in. So in effect, your case is ready for your motherboard. So if you grab your motherboard, lift it up, move any cables out of the way like a fan cable that's in the way, you line it up with the I/O shield and put it in. Now with this motherboard, there are studs already in for you to screw into. So as well as lining up your I/O, you should be able to see through your motherboard screw holes for the motherboard to screw into. At this point you need to go to the bag of screws that come with your case. Now one of them says 3.5-inch hard drive. One of them says 2.5-inch hard drive. Then there's a bag of assorted other screws. So what we need to do is we need to get our bag of screws like so and empty them out. Okay, now you'll see many screws in here of different varieties. You'll see you should get a spare stud or two for your motherboard, and you should also get small screws with a flat top. For those screws you'll need to get your screwdriver, put the small screw on the end If it's magnetic, it'll stay. And you need to screw the screws into the studs underneath the motherboard. Once you've got your first one in, you should find that the motherboard doesn't move. Now you need to put as many in as there are studs for it to go to. Once you've got all of your screws in place, you should find that the motherboard is nice and secure. So now the motherboard is in the case. Okay. Now one of the next things we need to do to make sure that everything's connected, and again, go to your manual, and in your manual we need to find a system fan header, and there's a system fan header towards the top of the motherboard. Now again, like I mentioned before, this has got 3 pins on it, so you need to line this up so it will go into relevant fan connector on the motherboard. Now out of the box, this came with a cable tie that was keeping the fan cable in a nice tidy order. Now in this particular case, I have kept the cable tie on, and I've pushed it underneath the fan so it keeps it nice and cozy and tucked away. Okay, so now that is in the same way that I did the CPU fan. I found the 3 pins, I put it into the fan header. So now we have the CPU fan connected and we have the back fan connected. Okay, so now we have the motherboard in, the back fan connected to the motherboard. So next I'm going to install the 2.5-inch drive and the 3.5-inch drive. So let's work on that. So as I covered in the introduction video, I'm installing a 2.5-inch drive. This is a 240 gigabyte inland SSD, and I'm installing a 3.5-inch drive, which is a 1 terabyte WD Blue. This is for your files and applications. This is for Windows. So as I mentioned, in the bag in the motherboard, there is a bag of 2.5-inch drive screws and a bag of 3.5-inch drive screws. So let's do the 3.5-inch drive first. Now if I empty the contents of the bag out, and keep the bag because you'll want to put any spares back in, you can see that there are like rubber grommets with screws that go through. Now you will need 3 because there is already 1 rubber grommet in the case. Okay, so I'm getting 3 out, and I'm going to put the rest in, which is kind of a bit unusual for this case because it's only got 1 place for 3.5-inch drives, yet it gives you a whole bag of the screws for them, which kind of doesn't add up. But okay, if you have a different Thermaltake case, you could always use them for that. Alright, so let's unbox said drive. Always be careful using knives. Now, as in the case with virtually all 3.5-inch drives, it comes in its very own anti-static bag. Like so. And because mechanical hard drives are not that sturdy, it came in its own braces to stop it moving around. 1 3.5-inch drive. Now a lot of drives are added to cases using the screws on the side, but in this particular case we're going to put the screws on the bottom. Now what you need to do is you need to line up the case to find which of the holes is populated by the rubber grommet already, and it basically in this case by turning it over is the back left screw. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to screw in the other 3. Now don't do these too tight, because if you squash the rubber too tight you won't be able to actually slot them in. Okay. So that's the 3.5 drive ready to be put in. So you need to line it up, the rubber grommets with a big hole. Story of my life. And then push it in. And then once you've pushed it in, if you try and lift it off, it should not move. Now, you may find it's a bit loose. So if it's a bit loose, you just need to tighten the rubber grommets ever slightly. Again, not going too tight because you don't want the rubber to the point where it won't actually go in. But you don't want it to the point where you get it in and you can't push it. See, now I've just tightened slightly and I'm trying to pull it and it ain't going anywhere. So the 3.5 inch drive is now in. Now for the 2.5 inch drive, it's a similar deal. We'll open it up. These don't normally come in anti-static bags though, because 2.5 inch drives are pretty hardy. They're very hard to short, and because they're not mechanical in any way, they tend to be a lot more sturdy in packaging. So now I'm going to get, again, with this case, there is a rubber grommet on one of the points. So you need to empty your screws and your rubber out. And then you need to make sure that you've got 3 screws through the rubber grommet. Make sure that you put where the power and the connection to the motherboard goes away from the edge of the case, because if you put it on the wrong way round like that, you won't be able to attach it to anything. So in this particular case, putting it on that way, this hole at this corner will be the one that has the rubber grommet attached to it already. So I just need to insert the other 3 again. Make sure you don't go too tight. As before, when you attach the drive, it's a bit loose, you can always come back. Voila, 3 rubber grommets attached. So now I'm going to put this onto the case, push the rubber through the hole, and then slide into place, like that. And now the 2.5 inch drive is now attached to the case. The last thing you need to do now is to pack up the screws before adding your power supply, is to attach the case I/O. Now, on this particular case, there are holes right here for you to feed your I/O through. However, some of the I/O, i.e. the USB 2 headers, sorry, the USB 3 headers, are bigger than the others and might be in a different place, so you've got to be careful. So in this particular case, the USB 3 header is actually right next door, but it's really tight, this. It's really close. So you've got to be careful because it's pins, that you don't want to bend the pins as you put them in. Voila. Yeah. That's not going to be fun to do, but there we are. We've also got HD audio and another USB, which is obviously a legacy USB. So you need to find them on the motherboard. Again, use your manual. We have, let's have a look. Okay. So 6 on this, it tells me which one is USB. Then next to it are 2 USB legacies. And your HD audio, wherever you are, which is basically for your headphone jack on the front, which is your mic and your headphones. And we need to find out where that is. It's normally a bit further along. It's called front audio in here. So even it says HD audio, and that is right at the back of the motherboard. So you don't want to put that through the same gap that we just did with the HD, with the USB even. So find your USB, which is this one, and then we need to feed that through the hole towards the back, closer to the power supply. Now if you look on the end of this USB, hey, See, building PCs is an adventure, you know. I hate putting these things on. Right, so that's the USB attached. I've got the wrong one. Right, so we'll try again. Making sure I don't bring any other cable with it. I'm going to put the HD audio now. In the HD audio, it's got a blocked off hole in the middle, and that tells you which way to put it on the hole, because it can only go on one way. Like so. Okay, so now put these on. They come in through the bottom holes and they're easily managed and they're not blocking any airflow. The last but not least part of this, and this is, trust me, the least fun, is your power supply, your HD light and your power light. Now in your motherboard it will say which way is positive, which way is negative. Some of them are split, some of them are not. So if you find in your manual, it will tell you which way around is positive and which way around is negative. Now positive is there's a little triangle on the end connector. So there we are. There's a whole section which in the manual which is devoted to which way around is which. And I really hate this bit. So I'm going to do which one first? Reset switch. Now I don't think reset switch has got a positive or negative if I remember rightly. So I'm going to separate that on its own. It's got no triangle on it. Oh yeah, sorry, it has got a triangle on it. So I'm going to feed that through by where I put the USB 3 in. And according to this, the reset switch, which has got the positive, which is to this way, is going to go on the 3rd and 4th pin. Like so. So it's on the bottom 3rd and 4th pin in from the left. The next one I'm going to do is power switch. Always a good plan to have your power switch. And that is the 3rd and 4th pin on the top. So I've got my positive. Positive is to the left. Feed it through. Make sure you get your positive again, because you don't want to be shorting it before you've even tried. Powering up's kind of a big deal. It's on the 3rd and 4th. There we are. Try and keep any excess cabling pulled back out to the back. Next, we've got the HD LED, which is the 1st and 2nd pin on the bottom and positive to the left. Who says you can't have fun doing PC builds, eh? And positive to the left. There we go, it's in place. USB 3, click back in place. And last, but certainly not least, we have the Terras that are your power LED. Now on these ones, it actually normally tells you which one's positive and which one's negative. Now in this particular case it's saying there's 3, but I've only got 2 pins, so it's positive on the left, which is from the right it's 3rd pin, and from the right negative is the 1st pin. Okay, as you can tell from the first build, this is the really horrible nasty bit of doing PC building. I'm trying to do it in as most of an entertaining way as I can, but it really is not entertaining. Way. Voila! Now at the back we have all kinds of cables flitting around, but we'll deal with that later. But on the inside the cabling is really nice and tidy. You can see all the connectors are on the bottom, and on the back we have the 3.5-inch drive and the 2.5-inch drive. The last thing we need to do is to take the 2 included SATA drive cables and connect up your hard drives. Now this is nice because they've given us a SATA cable that has a bent end for one and a flat end for the other. Okay, so the bent end one I am going to put in the SSD, and the flathead one I'm going to put in the 3.5. Once you know it's in is when it clicks. Then feed it through. Okay, Now on the motherboard, the SATA ports are next to the chipset here. Now you've got to be careful when putting a SATA cable in because there's an L shape on it, so you've got to make sure that the L shape is going in the right way. If you try and put it in another way, it won't go in. But there we go, that clipped in. So that's the 3.5 inch drive connected. Now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to connect the 2.5 inch. Oh, look at that for a lovely click. And a very audible click for that one as well. So now we have our 2.5 inch drive connected and our 3.5 inch drive connected with a lot of cable mess at the back. Our motherboard is securely fixed in. We have the fan at the back nicely connected. All we have to do now is add our power supply and worry about our cable management, and then finally install Windows. So if you have any questions about this, please leave a comment down below, because while this goes on for a little while, it is a very important part of the PC build. Get this wrong and things won't work. Okay, I'm going to add another fan to the front of the case, which I won't cover in here. It's just screwing a fan in and then connecting it to a fan header, which I've already done with the back fan. Okay, so that is part 2 of the beginner's PC build. Please leave feedback, and if I've chopped my head off in some of the cameras, it's quite hard with the camera I've got to get me all in while standing up while having to do stuff. You've got to stand up at certain points, so apologies for that in advance if it's happened. Also, leave any positive comments because they're always welcome. Don't forget to subscribe. Also, click the bell icon to get future videos, as well as part 3 of the beginner's build video. I hope you enjoyed it, and don't forget, take care.